SCP-2419 is called the Laughing Men, which is apparently an evil monster that the SCP Foundation created. This seems like it's going to be pretty interesting, guys. This one's by SCP Explained. Make sure to subscribe to them. Subscribe to me if you like reaction videos, and let's get into this animation.
Someone was screaming inside the incinerator. The year was 1975. The location was a top-secret refinery and waste disposal plant.
Okay.
One of the many front organizations owned and operated by the SCP Foundation.
Sure.
This sprawling facility, separated into three different huge units, each with a specialized task, was located around 75 kilometers outside of Summer Springs, Colorado.
Okay.
It had operated for several decades without incident.
Can't last for too long,
but today, all hell was about to break loose.
All right,
Alarms
what happened?
were blaring in Unit C, the area of the facility that dealt with destroying non-anomalous waste via incineration.
Okay,
A traumatized
non-anomalous
worker had
waste.
pulled the emergency lever near one of the incinerators in a panic when he'd first heard the loud banging against the interior walls, and then those horrific pained wails.
Oh my gosh.
That's when workers of Unit C came to a horrifying
panicked and he just
realization.
turned it on?
The screams weren't just coming from one of the incinerators in Unit
They're coming
C.
from all of
They
them?
were coming from all 6.
What the
A
heck?
chorus of absolute agony
Oh
echoing
my
up
God.
out of the ash pits. This was impossible as far as the Unit C staff
Right.
were concerned. These incinerators were only to be used for confirmed non-anomalous material. Could
Sure.
some animals or even some poor workers somehow fallen into the incinerators? But even if they
I don't
had,
know.
what were the odds that someone had fallen in all 6 of them at once?
And-
it was impossible.
Yeah, that's...
The site director was immediately brought in to authorize
they
an
put in
investigation, at which point he determined that at least one of the furnaces, in this case furnace number 4, be shut off so researchers and guards could investigate what was going on
Okay.
inside. It seemed like the obvious
the
course of
guns.
action.
Sure.
But for some of the people on site that day, this would prove to be a fatal mistake.
Uh-oh.
When the fires were put out, something started rattling in the disposal chute. There was a scratching and squealing noise, like something scraping up against the metal. A maintenance worker was ordered to go check inside.
Right.
When he opened the hatch, he let out a bone.
He got attacked?
Shriek. There was something, or was it someone, climbing back up the disposal chute. It emerged from the darkness,
Oh my
backlit
God.
by the still burning embers of the incinerator,
God.
letting out an awful screeching noise that could make even a hardened mobile task force operative shake with fear. The creature was humanoid, a charred, mutilated skeleton reaching out towards the maintenance worker with a bony claw.
Like undead.
Before the worker had a chance to stumble back in horror, the beast had clasped him by the throat and started to squeeze.
Oh
It didn't
my
even
gosh.
need to strangle him. The heat of its
just
skeletal
burned.
hand burned away the worker's throat in seconds,
God.
leaving his limp, wheezing body to drop to the metal grate
Oh
of the
my
platform below.
God, that's
Several
horrible.
armed guards and maintenance workers moved forward to fend off the monster, but just then a volley of more violent shrieks echoed out of the chute behind it. It
There's
only
a
took
bunch of
seconds
them.
for over a dozen more creatures to crawl out of the disposal chute. They were all like the first, people at various stages of incineration. Some were glowing, charred skeletons with barely any flesh. Others looking more like severe burn victims.
Right.
Their faces contoured
That's
into
horrible,
scowls
dude.
of hate and rage.
Horrible.
The assembled guards opened fire on the
How
sudden
did they
influx
create
of
this, though?
anomalies,
Like,
emptying the
wasn't
magazines
purposeful,
of their
was it? Or
submachine
was it?
guns into their burning bodies. But their weapons didn't seem to cause any lasting damage.
Well, I mean, if the
bullets
fire
would tear
didn't
through
hurt
the
them.
flesh of the creatures, causing some of them to stumble and fall. But
Right.
the wounds would close and the
They just
creatures
heal
would
up.
rise again.
Wow.
It seemed they possessed a deadly combo of extremely high aggression and incredible regenerative abilities. None of the
That's
staff
why they're
present in
still
Unit C were
alive
safe as
in
the burning
the heat,
corpses
right?
attacked anyone they could find with their bare hands, beating and biting and clawing. Many of them would grapple with Foundation personnel, latching onto them and trying to pull them back down into the incinerator.
God.
These creatures, that would later be known as SCP-2419-A, caused several fatalities with their surprise attack that day.
I'm
And
sure.
the situation was only brought back under control when a mobile task force that possessed more advanced training and weaponry was dispatched to the location.
Okay.
Despite orders from the site director, The MTF found it impossible to actually terminate any of the entities due to their regenerative abilities.
Right.
Instead, the MTF agents focused on forcing the anomalies back into the chute of
Okay.
incinerator number 4 using
Makes
a
sense.
powerful industrial steam lance.
Wow.
Once they were back inside,
Steam
the incinerators
lance.
burners were started up once again.
That's
the MTFs
interesting.
were also able to capture 5 of the entities and detain them for questioning and experimentation.
Questioning?
Finally
Are they
bringing
gonna
this
talk?
unexpected containment breach to an end. The Foundation is
Nice
an
job,
organization
MTF.
that prides itself on possessing forbidden and secret knowledge.
Sure.
But even they had no idea what had just happened.
I don't
There
need.
seemed to be no earthly explanation why these creatures would suddenly manifest inside the incinerators.
Right.
But as the detained anomalies continued regenerating, a slightly clearer picture of what exactly the Foundation was dealing with began to emerge.
All right.
Every single one of the captured anomalies kept regenerating, and upon getting to the point that they were no longer burned scarred, the researchers studying the anomalous creatures discovered that each one was identical to a deceased D-Class from the Foundation's records. They were physically and genetically identical to the dead Class D personnel.
my
Perfect copies,
God.
save for the fact that their sole mission in life seemed to now be pure and unmitigated
Revenge.
aggression and violence.
Wow.
Researchers wanted to gain greater insight into the minds of these strange creatures through
How
the
did
use
they
of
get into the
extensive psychological
incinerator?
evaluations and interviews. It would turn out to be a very dangerous investigation.
Well,
A
I
psychological
guess.
researcher by the name of Dr. Warren conducted an interview with one of the SCP-2419-A instances in hopes of better understanding their mindset. This
Sure.
creature had been heard laughing not long before the interview
A
began.
laughing man.
So it wasn't an unreasonable assumption to believe that it could be capable of speech.
Right.
The interviewee was separated from Dr. Warren by a thick pane of glass to prevent it from indulging in any of its more violent urges.
Yeah.
The problem was that Dr. Warren and his assistant researchers had severely underestimated what these creatures were capable of doing to get what they wanted.
Dr.
Warren
is gonna be in
tried to
trouble.
begin the interview in good faith. He spoke calmly and politely to the creature through the glass, attempting to remind it of the person it once was.
Where
The
is it
anomaly
just gonna
didn't
laugh
appear
at
to
him?
be paying attention to the doctor, though, instead focusing on pulling its own arm apart and breaking the bones within. Dr. Warren began to think that the creatures weren't even sentient. If the only activity they seemed to engage in was the wanton destruction of themselves and others.
Right.
But underestimating them like this proved to be a big mistake.
They were just
By
vile
removing the skin
creatures.
off of its arm and whittling its bone down to sharp edges, the
Ah.
anomaly had transformed its arm into a makeshift knife.
I
Before anyone
see.
realized this, it had already used its own jagged bones to break the glass divider and attack Dr. Warren.
I
He perished
see.
not long after being stabbed multiple times in his
Wow.
face and eyes, and the anomaly was forcefully taken back to its holding cell.
How
Dr.
violent.
Daniel Jennings, a senior researcher, was then put on the case. He released a chilling memo of the creatures after his observation period ended. It read, "Before I came here, I worked as a prison shrink. Every person you met had a story bursting with pain and sorrow.
Sure.
Sometimes these stories were about the pain they suffered. Sometimes it was about the pain they inflicted. Some days you felt like everyone there was a beautiful soul torn down by their circumstances. Other days you'd find out what some of them did, and a part of you was glad that they were there to suffer
Right.
for. But at the end of every day,
I couldn't do
always
attorney
told myself,
work because
they're
of
all
something like that,
humans.
man.
They're all people.
There's no
They
way I
all
could
deserve
be
the
a
same
lawyer, you know?
dignity, respect, and love as everyone else. No
Yeah.
exceptions."
Well.
Dr. Jennings goes on.
Has to
I
be
opened up with that
exceptions.
anecdote only so that you could understand that what I'm about to say is not said lightly. These
Okay.
things are not people. They are people-shaped monsters.
Right.
They are well beyond any definition of psychopathy.
Oh my
Everything
gosh.
they do to hurt, maim, and kill. I
Right.
would pity them, but that would imply that they're worth pitying. Put them in a hole, then
And
fill that hole with
concrete.
Better still, throw them back into the incinerator where
Oh
you found
my
them.
gosh.
I doubt they'll even care. Following this string of unfortunate incidents,
Jeez.
containment procedures were put into place to hopefully prevent anything that had happened to the unlucky Foundation staff from happening again.
Right.
The entire facility was fenced off and
How
was
did it
constantly
work?
patrolled by
That's what I wanna
MTF
know.
Beta 7, also known as the Maz Hatters. a group specializing in containing anomalies which present powerful biological, chemical, or radiological dangers.
Okay.
The furnaces that the anomalous creatures emerge from remain
So many
lit
NTFs,
at all times, with workers checking and carrying out maintenance on every single one each day of the week. Outside of this, the facility is essentially a no-go zone.
Trespassers will be
Reinforced
shot.
steel hatches cover the chutes, and they are to forever remain bolted shut.
Got
All
you.
because of that one terrifying day in 1975. That was the day that the Summer Springs Waste Disposal Facility, which had been a valuable asset to the Foundation for decades, instead became classified as the Euclid Class anomaly, SCP-2419.
So the
It is
whole
not
facility.
uncommon for a Foundation asset to one day become a dangerous anomaly requiring containment. But the same question always pops up after. Why? What had a place that had been so valuable to the Foundation suddenly become such an active danger?
Exactly.
The answer, as is often the case, is contained within the question. Why would a waste disposal plant be so important to the Foundation in the first place?
Were
And
they
more
disposing of
importantly,
bodies?
what else was going on at the plant to
D-class
make it such an
bodies?
area of active importance for
A
one of
number
the
of
most
them.
powerful organizations in the entire world? To put it simply, the plant allowed the Foundation to dispose of something far more important than mere waste material. It gave
Dead
them what
bodies.
they needed to better erase memories. As you probably already know, the Foundation makes liberal use of amnestics on those exposed to anomalous material to make them forget what they had seen and experienced. But these elusive chemicals, many of which are sourced from SCP-3000, are an inexact science. However, at the Summer Springs Waste Disposal Plant, researchers discovered an immensely valuable alternative. Much of what was disposed of in the incinerators of Unit C were the bodies of dead D-Class personnel. Before being burned,
we knew that.
autopsies were performed on the bodies to make sure they were non-anomalous, including the brain. Back in the 1960s, while performing research on the brains of dead D-classes, they found a method of extracting and distilling the positive memories of the dead, creating a kind of happy soup. When administered into someone who has undergone
brain
treatment,
juice,
this happy soup creates positive false memories in their mind that fills in those pesky blank spaces that are often behind. This was so useful that happy memories were extracted from the minds of every single D-Class corpse that passed through Unit C, totaling well into the thousands by the time that the first SCP-2419-A instances began to rise.
Horrific.
But as all happiness, joy, and love were removed from the minds of the D-Classes, it seemed that all that was left was pure hate, pain, violence, and fury. Feelings too intense and evil to destroy. These were bodies imbued with a malice so powerful that no fire could ever burn them away. They exist now with single-minded determination to get out and destroy everything around them. Everything. Including the ones that made them. The SCP Foundation itself. And in the end, it's only a matter of time until they get out. There are thousands of them in there, unable to die, unable to stop. The only thing keeping them in there is the constant burning of the furnaces around them. And those furnaces can't burn forever. The monsters lurking in SCP-2419 will outlive the fire that surrounds them. Because while the furnaces they are contained in are hot, the fires of hate that burn within SCP-2419 entities are even more powerful. And they know this. They know they can't be contained forever, and that someday soon, they'll be able to emerge and exact their terrible revenge. Those who must walk past the incinerators may think they hear their screams
and they can
out from
regenerate.
within, but it's not screaming at all. It's laughter. Now check out SCP-8.
God dang it. Guys, that's so horrible to think about. These things were taken, all of the happiness in their lives, their memories were taken out of them to give to people for amnestics, and the tortured remnants of their bodies or souls or whatever turned into these horrible monsters. This is so wild, man. I wasn't ready for that, guys. SCP Explained, guys. Make sure to subscribe to them. Subscribe to me if you like reaction videos too. Thanks so much for watching. As always, this is Zueljin signing off. We'll see you next time.